This is John Lennon and Yoko Ono's Power to the People, the Ultimate Collection box set. And in this video, I'm going to tell you what's in it, what isn't in it, and what I think of it.
Power to the people!
By 1971, John and Yoko seemed to have everything. Their home at Tittenhurst Park was a country estate straight out of a fairy tale. Large, beautiful, and secure. But with security came isolation, and they soon felt cut off from the cultural and political energy they craved. So on August the 31st, 1971, John and Yoko left England behind and moved to New York City. John saw New York as a kind of super Liverpool, a city with guts, vibrant, radical, and alive with possibility. But it also meant stepping into Nixon's America, where their outspoken politics immediately put them on the FBI's radar. The result was a mix of freedom and danger, and the music they created in this period captures all that tension, and is for me one of the most interesting periods of John's career.
2, 3, 4!
Almost exactly a year after arriving in New York, John and Yoko, backed by Elephant's Memory, performed 2 benefit concerts at Madison Square Garden for the Willowbrook State School for Mentally Handicapped Children, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. Billed as the one-to-one concerts, these were Lennon's final full-length concert performances, and it's these shows that form the core of this set. The only previous official release of these concerts came in 1986 on this 11-track album, Live in New York City. I remember it as a fairly low-key release at the time, which was met with mixed reviews in the UK press. The NME dismissed it as sluggish, uninspired, and a reminder of how far Lennon had fallen from the brilliance of Revolver. Melody Maker, on the other hand, welcomed it as proof of Lennon's raw honesty. Fiery, messy, but uncompromising. Back in 1986, Live in New York City split opinion. Today, most fans see it as a glossy souvenir rather than a definitive document. This new box set changes that. Remixed from the original multitracks at Abbey Road by Paul Hicks and the Ultimate Mixes team overseen by Sean Ono Lennon, the difference in sound is striking. John's vocals are still powerful, but now Elephant's Memory sound like a real band, and the garden atmosphere comes through, live, dynamic, and exciting. Sean himself has been instrumental in representing his father's work. For him, this isn't just archival duty, it's personal. He grew up with the 1986 album, and hearing new audio feels like getting more time with his dad. He admits the original tapes were a mess, but with Hicks and the team, he used a bit of movie magic to restore them, and the results speak for themselves. Disc 1 of this 9-CD set isn't just a straight concert, it's a specially created hybrid show, blending the best of both performances into one seamless set. If you only wanted one disc from these concerts, this would be it, and that's exactly what you get with a single CD or the double vinyl set. The 2 CD and this 4 LP edition include both afternoon and evening shows. The evening show is a few minutes longer than the afternoon show and has the Give Peace a Chance finale. But after already having given a stellar performance that afternoon, John's voice sounds a little more ragged. However, it's still a remarkable performance and proof that he could still cut it live on stage. By the way, the film of the concert, which we've already seen clips of in some recent YouTube videos, will be released in theatres in 2026 and will be available for streaming at this time next year. But for those who are familiar with John's work, and this album in particular, there's one absence in this set that really stands out. Woman is the of the World is missing completely, not just from the live shows, but also from the Sometime in New York City remixes on the set, and even from the essays in the book. The only trace is its title on a reproduction of the original sleeve. So why has it been left out? The song was hugely important to John and Yoko in 1972. The phrase came from Yoko, paraphrasing the idea that women were treated as society's lowest class. John defended it fiercely, saying it was about second-class citizenship, not the word itself. It opened the Sometime in New York City album and was released as a single in several countries, though not in the UK, where it only reached the test pressing stage. In the US, it came out in April 1972, but stalled at number 57 after most broadcasters refused to play it. It hasn't always been hidden. It appeared on Shave Fish in 1975, on Working Class Hero in 2005, and is still on streaming today. But for a major release like this, it was clearly felt that the risk of controversy outweighed the historical case for inclusion. And that's the dilemma. On one hand, leaving it out avoids distraction and harm. On the other, it risks sanitizing Lennon's story in a way he himself might not have approved of. I get why it was left out, but it still leaves a gap. For me, leaving it out is a big miss, but I understand the thinking. That word is now seen as completely unacceptable whatever the context, and reissuing it could have overshadowed or even damaged John and Yoko's wider legacy. Some fans feel strongly that it's history being rewritten, and some have said they won't buy the set because of it. Personally, I think that's a shame, because what is here is extraordinary, the most complete picture yet of John Lennon in 1972. For me, it's better to acknowledge the omission, understand the reasons, and still embrace everything this set has to offer. The book at least nods to censorship, reproducing a letter John and Yoko wrote to Capitol boss Bhaskar Menon, protesting the sticker covering the naked Nixon and Mao. Another talking point among fans is the claim that John's voice on the one-to-one concerts have been pitch-corrected. Now, I don't know if this is the case or not. However, if it has been done here, I don't think it spoils the performances. And honestly, if no one had pointed it out, I doubt I'd have noticed. And it's worth remembering, live recordings have been fixed for decades. Even the Beatles overdubbed parts of their Shea Stadium film in 1966 to cover technical problems. For me, it's the bigger picture that matters, and the performances here still have energy, grit, and character. CD 4, New York City The Ultimate Mixes, finally delivers the long-teased remix of Sometime in New York City, minus the controversial opener. When this album came out in 1972, critics savaged it as clumsy and too political. For years, it was dismissed as Lennon's weakest work. But half a century later, the picture isn't so simple. The themes, racism, feminism, war, state power, are still painfully relevant. Phil Spector once dismissed Elephant's Memory as street musicians, but after hearing them without his wall of mud, has made me appreciate them far more. And while John said he wanted the songs to sound dirty, these mixes prove you can keep the grit while letting the music breathe. But this disc doesn't just remaster the album, it reimagines it. John Sinclair and Sunday Bloody Sunday run longer, New York City steps up to open the set, and the whole thing feels sharper and more immediate. If you do want to own an original copy of Sometime in New York City with the song included, the good news is that it isn't rare. The album sold well in 1972 and still turns up regularly on both vinyl and CD, usually at very reasonable prices. So if you'd like it in your collection, the vintage editions are now your only option. That said, it's quite possible that the remix versions from this set will eventually see a vinyl release, so watch this space. CD 5 for me is one of the highlights of this set, the Evolution documentaries. These are audio collages that take you inside the sessions. Demos, early takes, rehearsals, even studio chatter, stitched together to show how the songs grew. You hear John experimenting with vocals, the band testing ideas, and John and Yoko directing Elephant's Memory. They don't just show you what the songs ended up as, they show you how they became. I wish they would include similar Evolution mixes on the Beatles deluxe sets. What do you think? CD 6, New York City Studio Jam, catches John loosening up with Elephant's Memory, much as the Beatles once did with their rock and roll jams. Unfortunately, Elephant's Memory aren't the Beatles, and the results are rough and ragged. Worth hearing once, but not something I'll return to often. More rewarding are the Elements mixes included here. which isolate the orchestral parts of tracks like Angela and the Luck of the Irish. Previously buried in the mix, they give the songs a whole new dimension. CD 7 may be the most challenging. It begins with John and Yoko's ferocious set at the UNICEF Peace for Christmas concert in 1969, then jumps to their 1971 collaboration with Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention at the Fillmore East. Messy, unpredictable, and even bizarre at times, but a reminder that Lennon was never afraid to push boundaries. CD 8 focuses on Lennon's activist years on stage, with performances from the John Sinclair Freedom Rally, the Apollo Theatre Attica State Benefit, the David Frost Show, and the Jerry Lewis Telethon. Some are ragged, but they captured John and Yoko at their most politically engaged. Finally, CD 9, Home Jam. This is a treasure trove of raw, intimate recordings from John's personal cassettes in 1971. Rock and roll was his comfort blanket, and those covers dominate here. But there are also protest songs, folk tunes, and spontaneous jams. The sound is lo-fi, but the charm lies in hearing John relaxed and unguarded, living with the music. The 3 Blu-rays expand the experience further, with stereo surround and Dolby Atmos mixes of the concerts, plus radio spots, adverts, and extended telephone conversation tapes. If you've got the right setup, they'll put you right in the middle of Madison Square Garden. The packaging is first class and consistent with previous Ultimate sets. The book is superb, beautifully produced, filled with rare photos, documents, and insightful essays. Like the Mind Games book, it will be issued in standalone form by Thames and Hudson this time next year. As you might have seen in my unboxing video, you also get a poster, 2 sheets of stickers, reproductions of a pair of tickets, an individually numbered backstage pass, and an after-show party ticket. Great stuff. I was also lucky enough to be sent the 4 LP vinyl set, which includes both the afternoon and evening shows. The pressing quality is excellent, flat, clean, and thanks to the polylined inners, completely unmarked. Oh, and the sound quality is tremendous, by the way. Honestly, these polylined inners make such a difference. I wish every record company used them, because they're often the difference between a flawless playing surface and a scratch one. Both the vinyl and the deluxe CD set also come with a stunning lenticular cover. And it's touches like that, creative artwork and thoughtful packaging, that really puts these Lennon releases head and shoulders above almost every other legacy artist. Musically, this period still divides opinion, but what comes across is Lennon at his most fearless, throwing himself into issues of the day without compromise. Hard to love at times, but impossible to ignore. John and Yoko described Sometime in New York City as their attempt to be modern-day minstrels, singing reporters, documenting what they saw around them. Their central message was about communication and unity. You are the media, they wrote. People are. Your message is the media, not the other way around. And you know what? 50 years later, that feels pretty spot on. Back then, newspapers, radio and TV controlled who got heard. Today, with social media, everyone has a platform. In a way, that's exactly what John and Yoko were imagining. But did it deliver the world without barriers they dreamt of? Well, not quite. We've got more voices than ever, but also more noise, more division, more misinformation. At times, it feels less like total communication equals peace and more like total communication equals chaos. Still, their core idea that togetherness and shared dreams can make things better hasn't lost its power. As they wrote, a dream you dream alone may be a dream, but a dream we dream together is reality. So, where does that leave us? For me, this set is indispensable. If you're a Lennon fan, you can't pass it by. The depth of material, the care in the mixes, and the light it sheds on such a turbulent period makes it essential listening. I do understand those disappointed by the omission of the Woman song. It's an important song, and leaving it out is frustrating. but I don't think its absence should overshadow everything the set achieves. There's so much here that brings us closer to John as an artist, a performer, and a man. And what's more, it outweighs what's missing. And just to be clear, although I was kindly sent this box by the Lennon estate, I'd have bought it myself anyway. It's that good, and I think it deserves a place in every John Lennon collection. For more information about this set and the price in your location, visit johnlennon.com or check out the links in the description. Of course, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts about this release, especially if you've actually heard it. So do let me and everyone else know in the comments. And if you'd like to watch more solo John Lennon content, why not check out this video right here? But that's all for this one, so I'll say bye for now, and thanks for watching.
Of course, anybody daft enough to decide to play saxophone deserves torturing.